wise men still seek him. By God's grace, we have once again entered into the time of year where we as a body of believers, along with the entire faith community, celebrate the Advent season. But the reality is that this time of year has become so commercialized by corporate America that people have been persuaded to pursue and possess the temporal things of this world that only provide temporary moments of satisfaction with a fading glory, rather than seeking after that which is eternal and has a surpassing glory. A glory that never fades and is grander and greater than anything this world has to offer. Read in a USA article the other day that reported that this year, people spent record-breaking amounts of money using their mobile devices. According to the article, on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, between midnight and 5:30 p.m., about $1 billion worth of sales was generated online. Went on to say that the projected Black Friday total would be $2.7 billion, and that people would spend another $3 billion on Monday. I'm not talking about the folks in the mall, I'm talking about the folks on their electronic devices. We have to be cautious and careful, church, that we don't allow ourselves to get caught up in the economic frenzy of finding online deals and steals and become more focused on gifts and gadgets, Christmas lights, Christmas carols, and Christmas trees before we take the time to recognize and celebrate the real reason for the season. For the definition of Advent, church, simply means a coming into place, a coming into being, or an arrival. That is, Advent is the expectation of something about to take place, something that is approaching or something that is about to appear. Advent, my brothers and sisters, refers more specifically to the arrival or approaching of the Christmas season. Every year, Advent takes place during the 4 weeks that precede Christmas, for it is a time when Christian churches all across the country, as a matter of fact throughout the world, celebrate Advent by participating in a variety of church rituals and celebrations, including the lighting of candles, holding special services, putting on Christmas pageants and concerts, all done with the intention of capturing the real reason for the season. Through all these activities, congregations prepare to celebrate the coming of the Christ child, the birth of the baby Jesus. All these liturgical practices that we observe and participate in are geared towards gathering the hearts and minds of every believer for the birth of Jesus. I think I need to take the time to tell you this morning that Advent must be seen in its proper context, and that it possesses a very relevant theological richness. What are you talking about? What I'm talking about, my brothers and sisters, is that as we approach Christmas, Advent is intended to prepare the Christian community for the coming of Christ into the world and to remind believers that central to the Christian faith is the belief that God abides with his creation. In other words, the Advent season reaffirms for the believer a confidence that Emmanuel, God, is with us. And so as we get ready for Christmas, let us remember the real reason for the season. Let us celebrate the precious, priceless, and perfect gift that God gave to the world through the birth of Jesus Christ. Let us remember the meaning and the message that we find recorded in John's gospel, that Christmas is the moment in history when the Word was made flesh and dwelt among men, and we beheld his glory. The glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Advent for the 21st century church is a ready reminder that we have a glorious day to look forward to. The anticipated return of a resurrected Christ. It is truly a blessed time of hope and anticipation. And so it was for the wise men that we find in our text this morning. These men had traveled thousands of miles in the hope and in the anticipation that they would get a glimpse of the one who had been born King of the Jews, the one whom the Old Testament prophet Micah foretold of his coming in Micah chapter 5 and verse 2. But you, O Bethlehem of Ephratah, who are one of the little clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to rule Israel. These men, church, verse 2 tells us, had seen its star at its rising and had come to pay him homage. They had come to pay respect and reverence and worship him for who he was. The gospel writer is the only one in the synoptic writings who bears record of this visit from these wise men. A visit that I believe serves as a ready reminder that unfortunately far too many people have a misunderstanding about who God is and the nature of our relationship with him. And I say that because some people expect God to come looking for us, to explain himself, to prove himself, and to give us gifts. But only the truly wise still seek and worship Jesus today for who he is, not for what they can get. For the Hebrew writer declares in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 6, the B section, the Bible is very clear where it declares that, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. I think I got some Bible readers in the room. The men in our text this morning were diligently seeking Christ. These men were not just ordinary men, for the text teaches us that these men were wise men. It has been suggested among Bible scholars and theologians that these men were astronomers, that they were well trained in studying the location and the movement of stars. And so it's no wonder why these men decided to travel upon seeing that wondrous and radiant star in the eastern sky one day. Now notice, if you will, that these men did not have access to the kind of modern technology that we have available to us today. No, there was no World Wide Web, no information highway or internet for them to surf prior to their departure. This was way before MapQuest, AAA, or roadside assistance. These men had set out on a journey relying on and depending on nothing but the knowledge and the training they possess. I think I need to remind you this morning that although you may start out with good intentions, there are some setbacks and disappointments that you may have to endure when you rely on your own resources and decide to do things your own way. Have I got a witness here? Anybody ever come up short operating out of your own agenda? Anybody ever had to face some frustration and failure trying to handle things on your own? Anybody in the house ever missed the mark that you were trying to reach? But the good news this morning is that wise men still seek him, because they know that the God that we serve is able to help you overcome the obstacles that you encounter on life's journey, to give you victory while you're still in the valleys and the low places of life to allow you to triumph over all your troubles. Have I got any witnesses in the room? How many know there's no mountain too high for him to climb, no burden too heavy for him to bear, no problem too big for him to solve? Even when you get it wrong, God gets it right every time. Even for the times when we mess up real bad, he's a God of another chance. Is there anybody in the house this morning glad that you've been given another chance?